An open economy, and open economy interacts with the other countries in two ways. Now, how this particular interaction between the countries is, it has been taken. It buys and sells the goods and services in the world product market, and it buys and sells the capital assets in the world financial market. So, with respect to the retail market and with respect to the capital market, the two activities or transactions can be undertaken or conducted by the economy, which is into a macroeconomic perspective. The first activity that we need to see, that buying and selling of goods and services. So, buying and selling of any type of goods and services in the open market or in the world market, it is a major feature or factor or the characteristics of an open economic perspective, wherein a specific composition with respect to the retail market is into existence. Second perspective, with respect to the capital asset or a capital market that is into existence, that is buying and selling of all the capital assets in the world financial market. So the world financial market in terms of the currency market or the foreign exchange market that is undertaken, and the exchange of the long-term investment of a capital is also undertaken by the open economic perspective. Another next feature or the example, the United States is a very large and open economy. It imports and exports huge quantities of goods and services. So the major example or the major identifier of the open economic perspective is United States, wherein we can see and understand that it is a very large and open economy, and it imports and exports the huge quantity of goods and services. So always day in and day out, or a very frequent or a maximum number of transactions have been conducted in US economy. So an example of an open economy is United States. Over the past 4 decades, international trade as finances have become more increasingly important. So at this particular point of time, in terms of an international trade, we need to see that the availability of finances, the movement of changes in the capital, that is capital assets from one country to another country, the movement of the capital goods in terms of the imports and export is very much important, and the flow of goods and capital at international trade is very much important. So at this particular point of time, we need to understand and we need to see that what type of economy we are dealing with and we are undertaking the transactions, whether it is a part of an open economy or whether it is a part of an closed economy. But in case of open economy, what is the benefit for you? In terms of an open economy, your goods and exchanges, your goods and services are being exchanged between the member countries, and everyone is getting benefited at this particular point of time. Now, understanding the flow of goods and services with respect to the imports and net exports. So, what is the export? Exports are the goods and services that are produced domestically and sold abroad. So, whatever the goods and services that we are producing in our home country or in the domestic country, and if these goods and services are being sold in the international market or the global market, that is outside our domestic boundaries, then this particular concept is called as an export situation. What is an import? Imports are the goods and services that are produced abroad and they are sold domestically. So if you are bringing in another types of goods and services of some another country into your home country or into your domestic country, then this particular bringing in of goods and services is called as an import perspective. Net exports, the difference between the value of a nation's exports minus imports is called as a net export. So the difference between your net exports minus the net imports is called as the net exports perspective, and it is denominated as NX. That is, net stands for N and exports for X. So net exports are always the trade balances. So as we have seen earlier or in the last lecture, that is yesterday, with respect to the balance of payment, so we have to always see that the balance of payment crisis situation does not arises, and there is a proper balance between your current account, capital account, official settlement account, and the uh, official net, all these particular three types of accounts. So in this way, the trade balance should be maintained feasibly, and accordingly, you have to look onto the concern of either you have a trade deficit or a trade surplus, capital deficit or capital surplus, and so on. Now, the flow of capital goods and services with respect to the exports, imports, and net exports. So, when a particular concern will be called as a trade deficit. A trade deficit is a situation in which net exports are negative. That is, if your imports are greater than the exports, then there is a particular situation when it will be called as a trade deficit. So, trade deficit is a situation wherein the country is importing more of goods and services in terms of exports that are being done. So, if the imports are greater or greater than the exports, then there is a situation of trade deficit. In a reverse situation, a trade surplus is a situation in which net exports are positive, wherein, for example, if your exports are greater than the imports, then this particular situation is called as a trade surplus. Balanced trade refers to as a situation when your net exports are zero or exports and imports are exactly equal. So it is a very tough situation, and at any point of time, there is no such situation that a balanced trade situation has arisen or any country has seen for. Either you have a trade deficit or either you have a trade surplus, and whether it is very difficult to get a particular situation with respect to the trade surplus that is into existence. So at this particular point of time, we need to understand and we have to see and analyze about what situation a country is passing on by, whether it is a trade deficit or whether it is a trade surplus. Trade deficit clearly mentions or identifies that your imports are greater than exports, and trade surplus clearly identifies that your exports are greater than imports. Going further, with respect to the factors that affect the net export. So the taste of consumers for the domestic and the foreign goods, the price of the goods at the home and abroad, and the exchange rate at which the people can use domestic currency to buy foreign currency. So what are the factors that impact your net export? So what is a particular situation? कभी ऐसा हो सकता है कि आपके either net exports बढ़ेंगे या कम होंगे. First thing, major thing that you need to understand is the taste and habits and preferences for a consumer. So if the consumer's habits, taste and preferences are very frequently changing, that what will be a situation? They will be demanding more of the exported goods and services, and the importing of your country will be at a very higher rate. So if in your domestic country, if the tastes, habits and preferences of your customers are changing or very frequently changing at this particular point of time, then what will be a situation? You have to identify and you have to see that your net exports may either increase or it may decrease. Now, if when we can say that your net exports may decrease if your imports starts increasing. Now, whenever your import starts increasing, what happens? The people are demanding the qualitative or standardized products, and for the getting these particular standardized or the qualitative products, you have to import the goods and services from some another country. So this is the situation wherein if your imports increases, it directly impacts your exports, and there is a situation of trade deficit at this particular point of time. The price of goods at the home and abroad. So if there is a certain differentiation or changes in the price of your goods and services that is in your domestic country and your abroad country, then at this particular time of also your net exports may get impacted. For example, while purchasing a certain goods and services of electronic nature. Now, at this particular example, for example, if you want to purchase iPhone, that is a phone that has been manufactured by Apple Corporation, and it is iPhone 6 or iPhone 7 that is into existence. Now, whenever you are purchasing an iPhone 7, if the pricing of the costing of this particular goods and services in India, it is, for example, 1.5 lakh, that is 1,50,000. But in the same situation, if you approach to Dubai, the pricing is, for example, 1 lakh. If you approach to US, the pricing is 90,000. If you approach to Europe, it is 1.20, that is 1,20,000. If you approach to Australia, it is 85,000. So in this way, what happened? You have different pricing options. Apple iPhone 7 available in India at 1.5 lakh. It is available in Dubai at 1 lakh, New York or US at 90,000, Europe at 1,20,000, and Australia at 85,000. So at this particular point of time, what happened? If there is changes in the prices of this particular product, then what the consumer will do? The consumer or a particular customer staying in India will not purchase the product from Indian market. He will approach either the New York, that is the US market, or he will approach the Australian market, and the goods will be imported from a foreign country. So in this way, what happened? If the prices of the goods of the goods and commodities is not stable into a particular market, then your exports might increase or decrease, and accordingly, you have to control or balance the situation. Another perspective, that is with respect to the foreign exchange rate. So if your foreign exchange rate is very flexible or it is not stable, then in this particular situation may also arise wherein your imports or exports may get impacted, and the deficit or surplus situation may impact or affect your business transactions. Factors affecting the next net exports. Another factor is with respect to the income of consumer at the home and abroad. So with respect to the income of the particular consumer, if the income also keeps on increasing or decreasing, accordingly, what will happen? The standard of living will also of the people in your home country or the domestic country will also change. And if the standard of living, if the income of the people also increases, then accordingly, they will be demanding the customized or the standardized product, and the imports will increase. Now, if your import starts increasing, there will be a direct deficit or the pressure on your exports, and the balance will not be matched. So balance situation cannot be obtained when a particular export situation is been reducing or your imports are increasing, and there will be a situation of either the trade deficit or a trade surplus. The cost of transporting goods from one country to another country. So if there is a certain control or the regulation on the transportation cost also, or the various taxes policy, so policies of the government with respect to the tariff and non-tariff barrier. So what amount of tax it is being charged by a government. So transportation cost. The major transportation cost it is with respect to the what mode of transportation you are looking for. Whether you're looking for the airways, whether you're looking for the roadways, whether you're looking for the railways, or whether you're looking for seaway. So depending on different types of modes of transportation, what happen? Your rates of transportation is differing and your price of the particular product also differs accordingly. So at this particular point of time, we have to identify and we have to see that if the price of transportation is quite controllable, then also it impacts your exports perspective. Policies of government with respect to the policy, the trade policy with respect to the fiscal and monetary policy, the policy of the government with respect to the taxation, that is what tax it is to be charged on the imports and what tax it is to be charged as a surplus or a deficit to the exports perspective. So in this way, the policy of the government in terms of the long-term policy, short-term policy, policies for the industry, policy for the sectoral development, policy for the monetary and fiscal development, policy for the industrial sectors, MSME sectors, and so on. So all the policies it is directly impacting your net exports. So here with respect to the US economy, as an example we have taken, you can see the percentage change of GDP. So the internationalization of the US economy, that is whenever the particular US economy has adopted the certain policy of an open economic perspective, you can see the difference in the imports and exports. So always what is the profitable situation, that your exports must be greater than imports. But in this situation, what you can see, there is always a fluctuation, and at some point of time there is a balanced situation. But at many times of many point of time, you can see either there is a trade deficit or either there is a trade surplus. So in this situation, at the year 2000, you can observe and you can see that there is a situation of trade deficit wherein the imports are greater than the exports. So in this way, what happens? Your GDP keeps on fluctuating, your GDP keeps on changing, and there is always a situation of an not balanced one. The net capital outflow. Now, the consideration with respect to the financial resources. Now, let's understand what are the various financial constraints with respect to your net capital inflow or net capital outflow. So, net capital outflow refers to a purchase of foreign assets by a domestic resident minus the purchase of domestic assets by a foreigner. So, in this way, what you have to understand at this particular situation, net capital outflow. Now, what is NCF? NCF refers to your difference between the capital that has been invested by a particular investor who is a domestic person and who is a foreign investor. So at this particular point of time, if the purchase of foreign assets by a particular individual staying in India or staying in US, and he's purchasing the foreign assets which is situated outside his country. So this particular situation is a particular situation wherein a difference between an purchase of an asset. So difference between a purchase of an asset of a domestic person and an international person who is a foreigner is called as a net capital outflow. So you have to decide and identify whether it is a positive capital outflow or whether it is a negative capital outflow. So in this way, if the investment of a domestic resident is more than the foreigners, then it is a particular situation of net capital outflow, which is a negative perspective. If the domestic assets which has been owned by foreigners into our domestic country is more than the domestic investment that is done by a resident of our own country, then it is a situation of domestic capital inflow. So in this way, we can see that there is a capital inflow into the economy and the capital flow is increasing. So it is either positive or it is either negative. For example, a US resident buys stocks in the Toyota Corporation and a Mexican buys stock in the Ford Motor Corporation. So depending on which company you are investing or which stocks you are buying, your positive or negative impacts it has been created, and the capital it has been said whether it is an inflow or outflow of the particular capital. Next example, when a US resident buys stock in the Telmex, the Mexican phone company, and raises the net capital outflow. So in this way, what happens? If a US resident is buying a stock in the Mexican company, then it is a capital outflow situation. Whereas when a Japanese resident buys a bond issued by US government, the purchase reduces the net capital outflow. So in this way, what happens? There is a reverse situation wherein a particular person of an US individual, he is investing into a particular company which is outside US, then it is a net capital outflow. Whereas if a particular person staying in Japan, he's investing a particular bond or which has been owned by a US government, then it is called a capital inflow. But it is a capital outflow for Japan, but it is capital inflow for an US person. So in this way, you have to identify what is the difference between the net capital outflow and whether the net capital inflow. Now, the real interest rates which is paid on the foreign assets. So what are the variables that impact your net capital outflow? First thing, the interest rate. Second thing, is the real interest rate that is being paid on the domestic assets. So whatever interest that you are paying for the foreign assets and whatever the interest that you are paying on the domestic assets. Next thing, the perceived economic and political risk of the holding asset period. So what is the duration of your holding of a particular asset? Whether the asset is held for a short-term period or whether the asset is held for a long-term period, that also impacts your capital outflow or capital inflow, for what duration it will be holded or it will be consumed by a particular individual. The government policies that affect the foreign ownership of a domestic asset. So the policies of the particular government which is providing a certain environment for increasing or decreasing the capital outflow or capital inflow, it is also impacting what will be the situation of a particular country. Now, the termination or determination with respect to the policies or the equality concept. So net exports, that is NX, and net capital outflow, that is NCO, are closely linked. For an economy as a whole, NX and NCO must be balanced each other so that NCO is equal to NX. So this will be holding a true situation only when the other transaction, all the transactions are at a balanced stage. So an ideal situation is only when your net exports are equal to your net capital outflow. So जितना पैसा आपको एक्सपोर्ट से मिलता है उतना ही पैसा आपको नेट कैपिटल आउटफ्लो से भी मिलना चाहिए, उतना ही पैसा आपका इन्वेस्टमेंट होना चाहिए. And then this particular situation is an ideal situation only when your NCO is equal to NX. Now the composition of GDP. So how you can, now in this particular slide you can understand that what is the net export is a component of an GDP. So how GDP it is been calculated. So net savings is the income of the nation that is left payable for using current consumption and government purchases. So formula for calculating for GDP is Y is equal to C plus I plus G plus NX. So consumption plus investment plus government expenditure plus net export. So here you can see that is the major contribution, that is NX, that is net export, is a major contributor for the contribution or calculation of GDP. So in terms of your calculation for the GDP, the net exports also plays an important role, and C plus I plus G is also a certain factor or component or the participants. With respect to the national saving that you identify, the formula changes and it becomes a quite negative perspectives, wherein if you are calculating only net exports and the investment perspective, then Y minus C minus G is equal to investments plus NX, that is your net export. So in this way, a balanced situation between your investment, capital gain, the government expenditure, capital expenditure must be equal to your investments and the net export. So in this way, a balanced situation or a trade or a surplus deficit can be seen by a country or a particular nation. Net savings, that is equal to Y minus C minus G. So S is equal to I plus NX. So in this way, your savings, that is S, is equal to domestic investment plus net capital outflow, that is NCO. So in this way, you can identify, you can see the difference and relationship between the savings, the investments, and the international capital outflow. So net capital outflow plus domestic investment is your savings that you can see at this particular point of time with respect to the formula determination or calculation. Now here in this particular slide, you can see the foreign investment of a US country or a US nation. So difference between a saving and difference between a domestic investment or net foreign investment. So at this particular point of time, you can see with reference to the last slide, with respect to the GDP and the net difference in the imports and exports, you can see that where as per the if your exports are also decreasing, your savings will also decrease. And if your domestic investment is also decreasing, then your imports are also decreasing. So at this particular point of time, there is a certain direct relationship between the domestic investment and the national saving and your exports and imports that you are conducting or undertaking. So here in this particular slide, it is very clear that there is a direct relationship between the exports and imports and the domestic investments and the national saving that has been done by a particular country. Now, the difference or the origin of net capital outflow and the percentage of GDP. So how your GDP gets reduced with respect to your fall in the national savings and the domestic investment and the foreign investment. So if at every point of time or simultaneous situation, it is being seen that your national saving is reducing, your domestic investment is reducing, and your net foreign investment is reducing, then at every point of time, your GDP will also reduce. And in the year 2000, you can see that the GDP of US economy is also decreasing simultaneously. Now, considering or understanding the prices for the international transaction, that is real and nominal exchange rate. So with respect to the international transaction are influenced by the international prices, the two most important international prices are the concern of the nominal exchange rate and the real exchange rate. So what is this particular concern? Let's look or see further in detail. First perspective, that is nominal exchange rate. The nominal exchange rate is the rate at which a person can trade the currency of one country for another country. So a rate that has been given by a particular one country, which has been determined or exchanged at some another rate, it is called as a nominal exchange rate. So in this way, we have to identify and we have to see that what is a nominal exchange rate. So nominal exchange rate, it is an expressed in two ways. That is a unit of foreign currency per unit of dollar, or a unit of dollar currency per unit of foreign currency. So I'll give you example at this particular point of time in order to understand what is an real exchange rate or what is a nominal exchange rate. Now, what is the particular market situation as on today? As on today, we can see that $1 is equal to 74.30 INR. Now, this is a particular rate wherein we can see and we can identify that $1, USD, that is $1 is equal to 74.30. Or for this particular example, take it as a particular example of, for example, I have taken this particular example in this particular slide as Japanese yen. That is $1, that is 1 USD is equal to 80 yen, that is JPY. So JPY is Japanese yen. So 1 USD is equal to 80 JPY. So in this way, what is a particular first denomination? The one nominal exchange rate, that is one denomination, is equal to 1 USD is equal to 1 JPY. Now, how it can be represented in another way or in another fashion? 1 JPY. Now, what will be the valuation of 1 JPY? 1 JPY is equal to 1 divided by 80. That is 0.0125 USD. So 1 JPY is equal to 0.0125 USD, and 1 USD is equal to 80 JPY. So in this way, you can identify and you can value the nominal exchange rate of a particular currency. Now, the same situation applies for a nominal exchange rate also, whether there is a situation of an appreciation or whether there is a situation of depreciation. Appreciation is a particular term wherein the rate of a particular currency increases and the rate of currency decreases is a particular situation of an depreciation. So as we have the valuation of an asset, whether we treat and we can say that the value of an asset either appreciates or depreciates, same way there is a situation for an appreciation or depreciation in terms of an currency also. So if the price of a dollar either increases or decreases, we can say that the price of dollar is appreciating or depreciating. Same case is the situation for the rupee currency, and same case is the situation for a Japanese yen, that is JPY currency. So in this way, we can understand, we can see that whether the price is either appreciating or whether the price is depreciating. The real exchange rate is a rate at which a person can trade the goods and services of one country for another country or for some another country. So based on a certain concern, the real exchange rate. Now, what is the concern of the nominal exchange rate? Nominal exchange rate is a particular rate which has been given by a certain government perspective. But the real exchange rate, that is REX, it is determined or it has been a certain position or a certain concern wherein it has been determined or it has been identified based on the certain market situation. So real exchange rate depends on the nominal exchange rate and the price of the goods and services. So whatever may be the price of the goods and services, based on the demand and supply factors, you have to identify, you have to see, and accordingly, the real exchange rate, it has been decided and it has been identified. The real exchange rate compares the price of domestic goods and foreign goods in the domestic currency. So comparison of the price of goods and services from in comparison to your domestic currency to the foreign currency is an example of an real exchange rate. Now, as I have given the earlier example of Apple iPhone 7. Now, whenever we are looking for the pricing of this particular product, the pricing of the Apple iPhone 7, for example, if in Indian market is 1.5 lakhs and it reduces to 1 lakh into Indian market. In comparison to this, you have taken various four options. That is the price of the particular phone in Dubai is 1 lakh rupees. In New York, that is USD, it is 90,000. In Europe, it is 1.20 lakh, and in Australia, it is 85,000. So here we have the comparison of one product with 5 countries or 5 nations. So one single product, that is one Apple iPhone 7, is available at different prices at different countries. Different price in India, different price in Dubai, different price in New York, different price in Europe, and different price in Australia. So here we can say that what is the real exchange rate. So the real exchange rate will be a particular concern only wherein the situation will be arising, that is when a customer purchases a particular product at a certain place or a certain location, then that particular rate will be identified as a real exchange rate. So in this way, we have to identify what is the real exchange rate of a particular price of a goods and services. Now, the formula for calculating the real exchange rate. So what is the denomination or the term for calculating? So the real exchange rate is a key determinant of how much a country imports and exports. So actual exports and imports of your goods and services is determining what is your real exchange rate at this particular situation. So real exchange rate is equal to nominal exchange rate multiplied by domestic price domestic price and the foreign price. So in this way, you have to identify, you have to see that what is the differentiation between the real exchange rate and the nominal exchange rate. Same situation, a depreciation or appreciation in terms of the real exchange rate is also possible, as we have seen in terms of an nominal exchange rate. So this particular situation of the real exchange rate and the nominal exchange rate applies for a situation wherein the price of the commodity of the goods and services may either increase or either it may decrease. So, and at the local market or at the international market, you can see that always the price of the goods and services keeps on changing or keeps on fluctuating. So if the price of the goods and services it keeps on increasing, we can say that it is a situation of depreciation wherein the products have become costlier and it is becoming heavy for a particular consumer to purchase those goods and services. In other terms, it is called as a situation of an inflation, wherein the price of goods and services keeps on increasing. In other situation, if the price of the goods and services keeps on decreasing or it keeps on falling, then it is a particular situation of an depreciation or an deflation. So wherein the price of the goods and services keeps on decreasing. As a result, so here you can see as a result, either the in terms of an example of an US concern, the price of the exports will either increase or the price of the exports will decrease, wherein depending on the market situation, depending on the market forces, you can identify, you can see that the price of the goods and services either keeps on increasing or either keeps on decreasing as per the terms and conditions of demand and supply market forces. Now, the first theory of exchange rate determination. So now let's look at the various concerns with respect to the exchange rate determination theory. So what are the various theories that have been available at this particular point of time? The first theory is the purchasing power parity model. So the PPP, that is purchasing power parity theory, is the simplest and the most widely accepted theory explaining the variations of the currency exchange rate. So depending on the variations in the currency exchange rate, you have to identify, you have to see that what is the purchasing power of an individual or a particular customer or a particular trader that he is purchasing or looking for a particular currency. So the basic logic for purchasing, that is PPP model, is it is a theory of an exchange rate whereby a unit of any given currency should be able to buy the same quantity of goods in all countries. So a PPP model is only made applicable only when a standard currency or a standard rate is applicable for a particular single product across the country, across the globe. Now, in this example, for example, when you are intending to purchase a certain Apple iPhone 7 and this particular product is available at 1 lakh if it is in Indian currency, the same product must be available in all the member countries at the same price. That is, whenever you convert a particular countries, for example, if you are going to Dubai and you are converting your currency to dirham, the same connotation, same currency must be available, that is in 1 lakh of currency in Indian rupee only. At Dubai also, the same product must be available in 1 lakh at US also, same currency in 1 lakh in Europe also, and same currency 1 lakh in Australia also. And when this particular situation arises, then you can say that the PPP model is quite acceptable and the goods and services are available at a free flow stage wherein the same price has been controlling or regulating or governing the entire market. So whatever may be the quantity of your goods and services, if the quantity demanded is same and accordingly if the price is also ruling, that is also same, then you can say that the basic logic of applying PPP model is quite acceptable at this particular point of time. So in this way, we have to see that what is the arbitrage situation also. Now, what is the arbitrage situation? Arbitrage is a particular situation where you have to identify what is the fluctuation or changes in the currency price level. So at what level the prices of the currency are increasing and what level the prices of currency are decreasing. Accordingly, you have to identify, you have to see that whether there is an increase in the price level or whether there is a decreasing in the price level. Now, the various implications of the PPP model, that is purchasing power parity model. If the purchasing power of the dollar is always at the same at the home and the abroad, then the exchange rate cannot change. So at this particular point of time, we have to see and understand that if the rate of the dollar currency, if the price of the dollar currency remains stable at every point of time at all the countries, then we can say that PPP model is quite acceptable and successful. If the nominal exchange rate between the currencies of two countries must reflect the different country level in price level. So at this particular point of time, the nominal exchange rate must also be same or must also be same or stable at every point of time. So whatever may be the rate, that is your conversion of currency. That is, whenever you're converting a particular currency from US dollar to JPY or from USD to INR or from INR to Euro or from INR to SGD. So at any point of time, your currency rate conversion must be same and it must be made applicable for all the currencies at a stable rate and it should not be very fluctuating. Next perspective with respect to the control or the implementation of central banks. So proper control, proper implementation, proper governing factors with respect to the central bank is also needed at this particular point of time, and we have to see that there should be a proper involvement of central bank's perspective of printing the currencies and taking the control of money market and the monetary market with respect to the demand and supply factors accordingly. Now, here understanding the German hyperinflation with respect to the connectivity of the price level, the money supply, and the exchange rate situation. So, in this situation, where with respect to the PPP model, you can see that if at a particular point of time the price level and the money supply is at a, going at a very rapid stage or a changing stage, then accordingly your exchange rate will also fall, and depending on your price level and the money supply, your changes in the exchange rate policies is been determined. So if it is falling, again at the same point of time, the exchange rate will also fall. And if your particular price level and money supply is also at a stable rate, then your exchange rate will also be stable, and the price of the currency will also be stable at every point of time. Now, furthermore, understanding the limitations of PPP model. So what are the various limitations with respect to the PPP model? That is, many goods are not easily traded or shipped from one country to another. So at this particular point of time, it has been observed and it has been seen that the major limitation with respect to the PPP model is the availability of goods and services. So if a particular goods and services becomes costlier, then those particular goods will not be demanded, and accordingly the goods are not being traded and they are not being shipped from one country to another country. So if there is no free flow of goods and services, if there is no free flow of goods and services with respect to the pricing or the quantitative perspectives, then the PPP model fails, and we cannot say that the price is stable across the country or across the globe. Tradable goods are not always perfect substitutes when they are produced in different countries. So with respect to the tradable goods and services, we have to identify and we have to see that it is a particular it is a standard situation that these particular goods and services must be shifted or transferred or traded from one country to another country. Now, if the goods are not being traded from one country to another country, then this particular situation fails and the PPP model cannot be applied accordingly. So, in order to summarize, now let's see what is the various concept with respect to the net flow of the currency. So, there is a direct impact or direct currency fluctuation with respect to the imports and exports of goods and services. It is directly impacting with respect to the purchasing power model, and we can see and we can identify and we need to see that whatever the maybe the changes in the domestic resident, that is whether the domestic resident capital outflow, whether it is increasing or decreasing, it is directly impact on proportional in respect to the foreign export, that is net exports and net imports. The economy's net capital outflow always it must be equal to the net export. So difference between net exports and net imports, it always creates either a trade deficit or a trade surplus, and accordingly we have to identify what is the difference or impact on the net currency imports with respect to the capital outflow and capital inflow. Now let's look at the situation of the USA crisis and the Euro crisis. So what are the various crises with respect to the USA and Europe economy that is into existence? US debt crisis. Now with respect to the USA, that is United States crisis, it is also known as the global financial crisis, and it was the first worst financial crisis since the Great Depression of 1930. So after the year 1930, wherein there was a certain situation of Great Depression after the World War II, it was been observed and it was being seen that the economy is always at a declining stage, and it was been impacting the entire country or entire globe at a very rapid stage. It has threatened that the collapse of the large financial institution was prevented by the bailout of the financial or the banks by the national government. So when was this particular situation of the US debt crisis? It was in the situation of in the year of 2008 to 2012, which was called as a Great Recession of 2008. It has also contributed to a European debt crisis, wherein simultaneously when the US economy collapsed, the simultaneous situation, it was being seen that it has also impacted, it has created an effect on the European economy also at a very larger scale. European debt crisis, it is also a situation wherein the multi-layered debt crisis was being placed after the year, that is 2008, it was a American crisis, and in the year 2009, it was the European Union crisis, wherein the Portugal, Ireland, Greece, Spain, and Cyprus were unable to repay their government debt. So whatever the debt that was been taken by these particular countries, they were not able to repay this particular type of loan, and this particular debt which was not been unpaid, it created a crisis in the European Economic Union. The structure of the Eurozone as a currency union without fiscal union contributed to the crisis. So at this particular point of time, it was also observed that various currency zone crisis was also into picture, wherein the European economic nations started to exit from the European zone, and they made a certain call that they have to change their currency, and with respect to the changing and the fluctuations of the currency crisis, the fiscal policy or the fiscal currency prices of the European Union also emerged in these particular years. The leading European nations implemented a series of financial support measures such as the EFSP, that is European Financial Stability Facility, and the European Stability Mechanism came forward. And at this particular point of time, the ECB, that is European Commercial Bank, came forward, and they provided the financial assistance with respect to the low interest rate to the European banks. So in this way, the Great Britain crisis came forward, and the European economic crisis also emerged into the world market. Now, the US debt crisis started in the year 2008, and the various resultant or the results was found in the year 2008. So, in May 2000, the federal interest rate was 6.5%, and the George Bush government became the president in the year 2001. So, what happened? He reduced the rate to the 1.75% in the year December 2001. So, due to this concern, what happened? There was a liquidity crunch. There was a various crisis with respect to the liquidity, and the money that was being available with the people was of a very higher rate. Due to this concern, what happened? The spending pattern started to increase, and after a certain point of time, there was no money available with the local people to spend a certain sum of money. And this has created or emerged a certain concern with respect to the US debt crisis. Increased liquidity. Now, what are the various drawbacks or limitations with respect to the increased liquidity? People with no or less income or no or less job and with assets and started taking loans. So what happened whenever your standard of people or whenever your expending pattern or whenever liquidity increases in a particular market economy, the people start to take a maximum amount of loan from the government agencies or from different banks. And at a particular situation, when excessive loan is given, there is a certain situation wherein the amount that you have to pay to a certain vendor or a particular trader, it becomes unpayable to a particular customer who is availed that particular loan. So it has caused the situation of an inflation in a particular market, and the price of assets started to increase day by day. Major impact or the factors that you can see, that is increase in the prices of house or the other assets plus easing of credit availability has increased, or it created a certain situation of high yield debt factor. So now, furthermore, what happened? The federal rate continued to be reduced, and from 1.75% again in the year June 2003, it was been reduced to 1%. So, which was the lowest in the last 45 years. So, due to this concern, what happened? The lowest rate of the bank rate of the loan was given at this particular point of time, and people started to avail the maximum loan. Another situation, there was no availability of collateral security for these particular people. Now, when people have not given the collateral security, there was no situation wherein the government or the people or the state government or the central government can recover this particular amount, and it has created a certain situation of the debt crisis in the US or the international market situation. Same, the explanation with respect to the 2005-2007 scenario, it has been given for you. And in August 2007, NASDAQ, NYSE, and Hong Kong or the New York Stock Exchange showed their incapability of solving this with respect to the Chicago also. And all the economies started to become bankrupt. So impact on the global economy. So here you can see that what impact has been created on the global economy. So the liquidity crisis continued and an extended recession could occur. Investment banks, that is UBS, stated in 2007 that 2008 would be will be a situation of a global recession, and with recovery unlikely for at least 2 years. So for major 2 years, that is 2008, 9, and 10. And it lasted to up to 2011 also. So for more than 2 to 3 years, the global recession situation was into existence, and every economy, every nation or every country started to suffer this US debt crisis, wherein the debt crisis was increased at a very gradual level, and there was no certain situation wherein the local people can pay off the debt that was being availed by the people. Further situation now, the situation with respect to the European debt crisis, that is with respect to the EU, that is the European Union. The situation that was being evolved or the evolution of crisis was in the countries of Greece, Portugal, Ireland, Spain, and Cyprus. And it has impacted continued with the financial crisis of 2008 and the international trade imbalances. So with respect to the changes in the imbalances of exports and imports, there was a certain situation wherein the European Economic Union cannot control all those particular factors, and it has resulted, and we can see that the European zone has also seen the fall in the crisis or fall in the imports and exports of this particular country. Greece is facing the debt crisis with respect to the high level of debt. So what was the various reasons with respect to the Greece? That is excessive expenditure, mismanagement, unregulated labor market, and obsolete pension system. So it has impacted the Greece situation. So these were the problems with respect to the Greece. With respect to the significant problem, that is the rate of government expenditure, it has increased by 87%. Earlier it was 31%, and it has increased to 31%, 87%. It has also increased the unemployment. The bureaucratic government was not stable. The tax evasion policy was there, and increase in the corruption. What was the impact of this particular crisis on India? The Indian economy has got impacted with respect to the trade deficit. That is, the trade has also been reduced. There were the fluctuations in the market position. That is, availability of goods in the retail market and the capital market. The liquidity situation also started to decrease. The rupee value was also at a very fluctuating stage, wherein it was not stable, and there was there was a great fall in the prices of rupee value also. And lastly, the borrowings. That is, the borrowing of a particular country also increased or decreased very simultaneously. Second perspective, now understanding the situation of Portugal. Now, with respect to the Portugal, you can see that European structural funds were mismanaged across the 4 decades. So around for more than 40 years, the European bond was being misutilized, and Portugal was one of the first economy to succumb and was affected very deeply. So after Greece, the impact was seen on Portugal. With respect to the Portugal, the impact was in the year 2010 onwards, and the amount for was at a certain situation with respect to the 78 billion euros. That is, IMF and European Union bailout package was given, and the package was with respect to the 78 billion. So in this way, it has impacted the European economy. So simultaneously, the impact was on the ECB, that is the European Commercial Bank also, and from year 2011, 2012, 2013, the crisis kept on continuing, and it has impacted the Portugal market simultaneously. So here you can see the major trade impact with respect to the Spain, Germany, France, UK, and Italy with respect to the comparison in the Portugal market. So various Portugal market also started impact, and the trade deficit was also created at every point of time. That was the earlier scenario of the exports. Now let's look at the imports. So with respect to the imports in the European economy, the Spain, Germany, France, Italy, and Netherlands, their imports has also started to increase, and the trade value has increased in thousands of numbers. So the values also started to increase, and there was a certain situation wherein there was a imbalance between the exports and import that was being created, and the trade deficit has been at a very higher stage. Present situation as on 2015 to 2020, for 5 years, the GDP was reduced from 0.2 trillion euros. The foreign debt has increased to 0.4 trillion euros, and the foreign debt per person is 38,081 euros. So in this, we can see that the deficit or the liability of a particular individual is also increasing at a very higher rate. Rate of 1 euro has fallen from 1.4866 to 1.0837 from year 2008 to 2016. Unemployment rate has increased from has rise from 17.50% to 10.80%. The total debt remains very high at 128.2%. Exports from India has fallen from 20% to 18.6%, and it has also impacted the stock market also simultaneously. The concern of the Brexit, wherein the Great Britain want to exit the concern of the European Union, and what happened with to this concern, the UK, that is Great Britain, has a direct impact on the concern with respect to the exit from the European Union also. What price the UK had paid for the European Union? EU membership cost us for 20 million pounds per day, and it has impacted directly on the international market or on the global market. So in this way, we come with the end of today's lecture. Thank you so much for your patience listening. Thank you.